This is the Rookie Big Board. I'm your host, Matt Hicks, the FF Educator, here with a Devy mock draft. It's been about 3 months since we've checked in on the value of our Dynasty Fantasy Football prospects. Now, a lot has happened in that time. We have an active transfer portal. We have the early National Signing Day period is closing. And of course, we are through the regular season of college football onto bowl season. A lot is in flux here, so it's a perfect time to do a 4-round super flex, no tight end premium Devy mock draft here. Let's go ahead and jump into it. 101, Caleb Williams, quarterback out of USC. Caleb Williams coming off of a Heisman campaign. He has a big arm, he has the athleticism, and he has another full season in Lincoln Riley's USC offense here. 102, Marvin Harrison Jr., wide receiver out of Ohio State. Marvin Harrison Jr. took the college football world by storm this year. Over 1,100 receiving yards here, 12 touchdowns, averaging 16.1 yards per reception. Add in the fact that Marvin Harrison Jr. listed at 6'3", 202. He is the prototypical size. He is a dominant player. He is fast. He is technically sound. Marvin Harrison Jr. legitimately has a shot to compete with Caleb Williams as the 101 in Superflex formats next year. And that is saying a lot, folks, because it is going to be a strong quarterback class next year. Travion Williams, running back out of Ohio State, 103. Now, Travion Williams is actually still atop my dynasty rankings, or I'm sorry, my Devy rankings here. And I know that can be a little bit tricky because he was really not looking like himself most of the season. They did shut him down for the rest of the season. It looked like an early season, I believe it was week 3, that he suffered a foot injury, and it was never really right all season. Tried to play through it. I still remember the breakout star that we saw as a freshman. He has the size, and I expect him to bounce back with a healthy year and be a first-round running back selection in the 2024 NFL draft. Emeka Egbuka. I feel like we are just not talking about Emeka Egbuka because Marvin Harrison Jr. had such a ridiculously good season. But Egbuka himself went over 1,000 receiving yards, 66 receptions, just 6 less than Marvin Harrison Jr., and 9 receiving touchdowns. Egbuka 6'1", 203. He had a fantastic sophomore year. He broke out. We saw really good flashes in limited play as a true freshman. Between Egbuka and Harrison, we're going to see another dynamic year for these Ohio State wide receivers. How about this? 3 out of the top 4, folks, are Buckeyes. And I do not have an Ohio State bias, all right? Nobody would accuse me of that. So just an interesting development here. Coming up next is Drake May, quarterback out of North Carolina. Now, between these top 3 quarterbacks that I'm going to be talking about, you really should take away from this mock draft that we have a strong shot at probably the strongest quarterback class in at least the last 3 years coming up in this next year with Drake May, with Caleb Williams, and with the other quarterback here that I'm going to talk about in just a moment. 106 is Will Shipley, running back out of Clemson. I might be a little bit high on Will Shipley compared to some folks, but I've been high on Shipley. I really like his pass catching ability, and whenever I have the ability to see a running back that not only performs well early, but shows pass catching ability early, that's a player that I'm going to hone in on. 3 down backs are rare in the NFL. So if we have the potential to get one, we're going to be bullish on it. And I'm bullish on Will Shipley coming out of Clemson. Now, before we jump into the 107 here, talk about my next set of picks, I mentioned this is not rankings. If you do want access to my Devy rankings, you can head on over to patreon.com/rookiebigboard. You get access for just $3 a month. The Devy ranking formula that I use is directly transferable to dynasty and rookie value as well. So you could pop in right now. Patrons at the Rookie Big Board have the ability to go in and look at any of these players, say Drake May, look at his Rookie Big Board rating and compare that to this 2023 rookie class and compare it to dynasty quarterbacks as well. It gives you a really good understanding of trade value here when you're talking about Devy players. Patreon.com/rookiebigboard, and you can save 15% on an annual membership now. 107, Nick Singleton, running back out of Penn State. I love Nick Singleton, true freshman, and he balled out here. 149 carries, 941 yards, 10 touchdowns, averaged over 6 yards per carry here. 10 touchdowns on 149 attempts is really fantastic. Now, he had a little bit of a mixed bag in terms of he had some big games and he had some games that you would have liked to see more, right? You look at the Ohio State game, 14 carries, 45 yards, not so fantastic. But you look at the Maryland game, over 100 yards. You look at the Michigan State game. He looked really solid in the Michigan State game. The Ohio game earlier in the season. We saw some big flashes here. And really with Nick Singleton, it's not so much the stats, it's the eyes. What we're seeing from Nick Singleton, it really backs up the hype, and he's got the size, 6'0", 220. Nick Singleton has the ability here. He's 2025 eligible. He has the ability to be a first round, the top overall running back here in that 2025 class. It's worth investing early. 108 here. Here's that final quarterback that I was alluding to in the 2024 class, and that is Quinn Ewers, the quarterback out of Texas. Now, Ewers is a little bit more raw. Caleb Williams looks ready for the NFL. Drake May looks just about ready for the NFL. Quinn Ewers definitely needs another season, but with his arm strength and his ability to improvise, he has the ability to be up in that top tier. So if you're drafting Quinn Ewers, you're drafting on a little bit more projection here, which is why I have him at 108 compared to Caleb Williams and Drake May, who I had as top 5 selections here. Now, as a general rule here for me, whenever you have to draft based on projection for quarterback, I proceed with caution. So I would probably prefer Quinn Ewers a little bit more in the 12 or 13 range. If I could get him at the top of the second round, once I've already made a Devy selection, that's what I'm a little bit more interested in at this point in time. However, it would not shock me if Quinn Ewers is as high as the top quarterback in next year's class by the time we get to it. Braylon Allen, running back out of Wisconsin, he'll be going through a coaching change here, but Braylon Allen has the size. He has great speed for his size, and he is just a productive, powerful back, runs really well in between the tackles, solid vision. So a lot to like about Braylon Allen in the 2024 class. He should be considered in the top tier of running backs, in that class. Xavier Worthy, 110, wide receiver out of Texas. Now, I know some folks are kind of down on Xavier Worthy. Numbers-wise, he definitely wasn't as impressive this year, but he broke out with some excellent stats. The true freshman, the athleticism is still there. The ability to win downfield is still there. The speed is still there. The route running ability is still there. And if I'm going to get Xavier Worthy at the back end of the first or even into the second round, which I think is a legitimate possibility, I am going to be in on that value all day, every day. Kayshon Boutte, 111 here, wide receiver at LSU. This is an interesting one, right? Because a lot of folks, the Kayshon Boutte truthers who wanted him to come out this year, we're still talking about him as a top 5 overall rookie pick or a top 7 overall rookie pick. And I was backing off of that. I had Kayshon Boutte as a mid-second round rookie pick if he declared this year, because I had his NFL draft projection outside of the top 15. So I was excited when Boutte decided to return to college. Hopefully he'll improve that draft stock. I would not take Kayshon Boutte at 111. I'd be taking him more at mid to late second round, but I put him in this mock draft at 111 because I do think his truthers are still going to push his ADP up. 112, Brock Bowers, tight end out of Georgia. Folks, this is an athletic pass-catching tight end. He has the ability to run with the ball in his hands. After the catch, he had that 180-yard rush this year for Georgia. He's an all-around physically dominant player. We're looking at a first-round tight end. So rarely will I advocate for investing significant draft capital in a tight end in Devy, but Brock Bowers is just about as close to a sure thing as you could get, and I am willing to invest a late first-round Devy selection on him. 201 here, Donovan Edwards, running back out of Michigan. I love that consensus seems to have caught up on Donovan Edwards, because I was the guy who was super high on him because we didn't see those numbers after freshman year. But what I did see was excellent athleticism, pass catching ability, great explosiveness. So I soaked him up. I took him everywhere this offseason, and now his value has almost doubled here. And so maybe you'll get him at the top end of the second round. He is going to come into next year as the lead running back in Michigan. I'm sure they'll have a compliment back for him. We saw him blow up against Ohio State. He's going to have the opportunity to show up and show out in the CFP. And maybe at that point in time, he'll actually get a consensus closer to the back end of the first round in Devy drafts. But for now, I am soaking up Donovan Edwards, looking to trade for him in any league I don't already have him, which is kind of rare. Cade Klubnik, quarterback out of Clemson. The Cade Klubnik hype has been building all year, and finally he is the official starter for Clemson as DJ Uiagalelei heads to Oregon State, which I think is a really interesting, different Devy storyline to follow here to watch DJU at Oregon State. But Cade is going to have the ability to command this Clemson offense, and he is going to have the ability to do it with some excellent weapons. I named Will Shipley. I didn't talk about Jake Brenningstool yet. Bo Collins, Antonio Williams. I'm going to talk more about Antonio Williams later on in this. Adam Randall. There's a ton of weapons to help make Cade Klubnik look really excellent here. So this high recruit is going to have the ability to show off why he was a 5-star and why so many folks were pushing DJU off the field all season. To get this Cade Klubnik action, it's going to be really exciting. Raleek Brown running back into USC. I feel like Raleek Brown hype is getting lost amongst Caleb Williams hype. So I don't think in most drafts Raleek Brown would actually go 203. I'm just pushing him up a little bit to feed the narrative that I'm high on Raleek Brown. He looks explosive. He looks like he has good vision. He looks like he has a shiftiness, ability to make moves in space here. I really liked what I saw from Raleek Brown, watching him live, watching a lot of USC live this year. So true freshman Raleek Brown, which means he'll be 2025 eligible, but a worthy investment to make at the running back position here. Quinshon Judkins, another 2025 eligible running back coming out of Ole Miss here. Judkins was really the storyline of the season from the Ole Miss backfield, and folks didn't expect that because it was going to be Zach Evans. And a lot of folks are now trying to use Quinshon Judkins as a reason to not have Zach Evans high in the rookie rankings. That's not the right approach to this conversation. Let's just accept and appreciate what Quinshon Judkins did as Zach Evans struggled to stay healthy. And by the way, folks, Zach Evans has always spelled with another back, right? Ole Miss has always spelled with multiple backs. Last year was Snoop Connor and Jerry and Ely, and they even worked in a third running back that I'm now forgetting the name of. I believe he transferred to SMU. Going down a little bit of a tangent there, but that's not the point. The point is that Quinshon Judkins and Zach Evans can both be very good. And Judkins did lead the backfield here with 1,476 rushing yards and 16 touchdowns in 12 games. Also had 13 receptions for over 100 receiving yards. Did find the end zone once through the ground. So 17 total touchdowns for a true freshman. He has 2 more years, folks, in the Lane Kiffin explosive offense. He's going to be featured. He's going to look excellent. His value is going to rise. All right, here it is. We waited long enough. 205. It's Arch Manning, the first player from the class of 2026 taken off of this draft. I felt like this was tame. All right, I felt like this was tame. I think Arch might go before this. In my last Devy mock draft 3 months ago, I believe I took Arch back into the first round. I'm here with him. I'm here with him. A mid-second round is fair. Here's the thing about drafting Arch, and I'm going to talk about plenty of other players in the 2026 class. It doesn't matter what their recruiting rating is, right? You're going to have to wait, and there's always going to be an element of volatility behind it. All right, so I understand that Arch's tape looks great. I do think he's going to be successful. I'm not worried about him not playing right away. I don't think he ever wanted to play right away, and we don't need these guys to play right away. Okay, so in 2024, he's going to hit the field. He's going to look excellent, I'm sure, and he's going to probably play 2 really great seasons for Texas and be on to the NFL. But that's best case scenario. You got to wait 3 years. So I'm always just a little bit hesitant, and I always rank the 2026 guys a little bit lower. But the other side of that is that you get them at his cheapest premium price, right? I mean, look at a guy like Nick Singleton, who I took 105 in this draft, 104, 105 in this draft, right? 107. It was 107. You could have gotten him at 208, 209 last year. There's not a chance you get him. So if you do invest in these guys early, you have the benefit of that, but it comes with a little bit of volatility. So Arch Manning, 205, quarterback out of Texas. I do him as the top quarterback in the 2026 class in terms of consensus where his ADP will fall. Raheem Sanders, Rocket Sanders out of Arkansas. Really productive year, really flashed in an offense that otherwise really struggled. So I think there is a lot of NFL draft type building behind Raheem Sanders, 206 running back out of Arkansas. On to 207 here, J.J. McCarthy, quarterback out of Michigan. I am in on J.J. McCarthy. We saw big arm ability early on in the season. We saw him struggle a little bit with that deep field accuracy, but it all clicked together against Ohio State. And what I loved about his play at Ohio State is he led with his athleticism. They let him run, which I thought was really fantastic. And so I think that J.J. McCarthy has a well-rounded skill set that's going to translate well for fantasy football purposes, and it's going to translate well to NFL offenses. So J.J. McCarthy is going to be 2024 eligible, and I think he is going to be another key piece in that class. I mentioned it, Drake May, Quinn Ewers, Caleb Williams. J.J. McCarthy can have an argument by the end of this to be QB1 in that class. Luther Burden, wide receiver out of Mizzou. Burden is 2025 eligible. He had a lot of hype coming out as a true freshman. He had some good flashes here. You didn't hear a lot about him because he was playing at Mizzou. There was some hype that he was going to transfer, maybe be in a more featured offense, but it looks like he's staying home. He is out of Missouri, I believe out of St. Louis, but home state kid there at Mizzou, and he's going to stay home. He's going to keep playing in that offense, and he's only going to be more of a featured part of it. Whenever they featured him, he balled out. They just didn't always feature him. So as he heads into his sophomore year, he should see more and more volume. Carnell Tate, 2026 class, wide receiver out of Ohio State. Quite frankly, folks, you can make an argument for a lot of wide receivers in this 2026 class, these incoming freshmen, in whatever order you want. I like Carnell Tate. I bumped him up a little bit here. He did land at Ohio State, and sorry, he's going to get a bump for being at Ohio State. They have a great track record of developing wide receivers, specifically a great wide receiver coach, overall coaching staff there for the development of their players at Ohio State. Drew Allard, quarterback out of Penn State. We saw very little out of Drew Allard, but I liked what I saw. He has a great frame. He has a great arm. He looked poised there, coming in relief a little bit for Sean Clifford this season. So we didn't get to see too much, but at 210, I think that's a good investment point here for Drew Allard. 211, Trevor Etienne, running back out of Florida. Etienne looked explosive. Yes, he is the younger brother of Travis Etienne. He looked explosive, and he looked like he's going to be a key piece of this Billy Napier Florida offense here over the next couple of years. So I don't think he's getting quite the hype to be a back end of the second round, but I still think that's a really good price point for him. Malachi Nelson, next quarterback up here out of USC, class of 2026. Arch Manning, I think, is consensus first just based on the name. I think a lot of folks are going to look at Malachi Nelson. They're going to like his high school tape. They're going to like his profile, and they're going to like the fact that he's playing in Lincoln Riley's USC offense here. Lincoln Riley, folks, like him or not, has a really good track record of developing not only NFL quarterbacks, but first-round selection NFL quarterbacks and all-pro NFL quarterbacks here. All right, heading on to the third round, Antonio Williams. I like Antonio Williams. He's not being hyped up enough. At 301 here, he is a smash value. True freshman for Clemson. True freshmen don't often get on the field for Clemson, okay? Coming in at 5'11", 190, 53 receptions, 563 receiving yards, 4 touchdowns. The passing attack for Clemson was inconsistent at best this year, and Antonio Williams seemed like he could be a real point of consistency for them. So I like Antonio Williams a lot. I think at 301, that is a really nice selection to make. 302, Justice Haynes, top running back recruit in the 2026 class. He's going to head to Alabama. That's great for development. It is a little frustrating because you know that he's probably going to get buried in that backfield a little bit just naturally because they have so much talent in there. And we've seen 5 stars go to Alabama and not play and transfer. All right, Kamar Wheaton, Trey Sanders is now transferred. So these running backs, they don't always stay at Alabama, despite the fact that they do, the top guys do tend to consistently go there. Nico Iamaleava, 303, quarterback out of Tennessee, big arm, athletic guy. He's going to play in Josh Heupel's offense. That might be me pushing up Nico a little bit here, putting him at QB3, but I'm excited about him. I believe he's the second quarterback in terms of 247 rating. So there's a lot to like about Nico. Heading on to Mario Williams, wide receiver to USC. Mario Williams should be the featured wide receiver for USC heading into next year. He is 2024 eligible. I do think he has the ability to end up as a tier 2 wide receiver in that class. So round 3 here, you're getting nice value for a quicker return. 305, Jermaine Burton, wide receiver out of Alabama. Jermaine Burton was somebody I was really excited about going into this season. Didn't end up getting featured in this Alabama offense in the way that I had hoped for. We saw some really good tape from him out of Georgia. When I go and watch his tape, there's still plenty of exciting components, but he's going to need to come back. He's going to need to be more productive in order to be a second-round draft pick, which is really what we need Jermaine Burton to be, because that's what his skill set deserves, right? But that production needs to match up. So we'll see. Still worth taking at 305. Jatavian Sanders, tight end out of Texas. He really flashed this year, was a real red zone presence, showed good athleticism. So he is going to be the second tight end taken at 306. You'll see that there's more tight ends taken in the back of this draft. But overall, in general, folks, I'm pretty hesitant to take tight ends in Devy, but not everybody shares that opinion with me. Dante Moore, quarterback at a UCLA. All right, so this is the last guy. So Dante Moore, originally a Oregon commit, flips to UCLA, right before the early national signing day. I like the fit there with Chip Kelly at UCLA. So now you have Dante Moore, you have Nico Iamaleava, you have Malachi Nelson, you have Arch Manning. You're going to hear folks argue about those guys in whatever order you want. Here's my recommendation. Do a little research, look into these guys, try to find a little bit of film on them, look at their profiles, look at their 247 reports, and just kind of get an idea of who you might like better, put them in an order, and then just take the guy that falls in the draft. Don't force yourself up. Don't tell yourself, I need to get in on this guy, or I'm passing on the class. Find your preferences here, but be willing to be flexible here and don't overload on this class. Don't use a second round pick on Arch, a third round pick on Dante. Try to spread out your selections a little bit. Jaden Ott, 308, running back out of Cal. Ott really surprised, 6'0", 205, and he exploded on the scene as a true freshman. 170 attempts for 897 yards, 8 touchdowns. Also 46 receptions for 321 yards and 3 touchdowns. Really awesome stats for the true freshman. He is going to be the Cal offense here over the next couple of years. I think he is still not getting the hype he deserves, and I think at 308 you can draft him, but he doesn't deserve to wait until 308. All right, you should take him earlier than that. Try to add a little bit of dramatic pause in there. Devin Neal, 309. Another guy here that's not quite getting the hype. He finally got featured with some production at the back end of the season for Kansas, and I expect that momentum to keep going. He's 2024 eligible. Brandon Innes, 2026 eligible wide receiver coming into Ohio State at 310, 311. Bo Collins, wide receiver out of Clemson. I talked a lot about Antonio Williams. Bo Collins, nice frame, nice hands as well. I do expect him to be a featured part of that hopefully improved Tigers passing offense next year. Evan Stewart, wide receiver out of Texas A&M. I think a lot of folks were hoping that Evan Stewart would find a different home. The former 5-star guy did not enter the transfer portal. He'll be back in Jimbo Fisher's offense next year. Hopefully not Jimbo Fisher's offense, but if we're being realistic, I think we have to assume that's his value. So I think a lot of folks are pretty disappointed to see Evan Stewart at 312 so far away from Luther Burden. They've always kind of been paired in terms of high-profile recruits, and folks had, a preference for one guy or the other, but I do think Burden is kind of pulling away from Evan Stewart a decent amount. 401 here, tight end Oscar Delp out of Georgia. He's going to be the next guy up. He will share the field with Brock Bowers for another year, but with Darnell Washington headed off to the NFL and with Eric Gilbert back in the transfer portal, not that Eric Gilbert really pushed him for playing time, but I do think Oscar Delp will be a more featured part of this offense. Excited to see more of him. Ruben Owens, a top running back prospect, originally committed to Louisville all the way up until National Signing Day, flips to Texas A&M. 5-star guy. I got to tell you, I'm a little worried about what he's going to look like here at Texas A&M, if he's going to get on the field quickly, what that offense is going to look like. They have managed to have their running backs be pretty featured and look pretty good, despite the fact that their wide receivers have been wasted. So I'm not down on Ruben Owens, just there's volatility there. Katron Allen really popped out, really flashed as a true freshman as well at Penn State. Now, he's going to always have the reputation as being the other running back, but he was really productive for Penn State. He deserves to be hyped up. 403 might be a little bit high compared to his consensus, but I wanted to make sure he got in this mock draft. Branson Robinson, running back out of Georgia. He should be the next running back up, really yoked up dude, really, a built running back. So he's going to play with strength. He plays with nice athleticism for his strength. I'm excited to see more of Branson Robinson. We got to see him worked in a little bit this year, but with McIntosh off to the NFL draft, there's a little bit more opportunity there in that Georgia offense. Troy Franklin, I have been waiting patiently to talk about Troy Franklin, the wide receiver out of Oregon. I'm high on Troy Franklin. I like him a lot, and he finally broke through this year. 56 receptions, 867 yards, 8 touchdowns in the Oregon offense here. Really clicked with Bo Nix, who will be coming back for another season. 56 receptions, up from 18 receptions last year. So it looks like that change in coaching staff really kind of helped elevate this team overall. Now, we will have a new offensive coordinator coming in this year, but I'm hoping that consistency with Bo Nix helps keep Troy Franklin as more consistent, and he can work his way into being a top guy in next year's wide receiver class. He is 2024 eligible. Dorian Singer, 2024 eligible as well. Played at Arizona this year, really balled out, transferred to USC, so he has the ability to be featured in that USC offense. So we have production, and now we have an elevation in terms of offense. All right. Last 6 selections here, KJ Jefferson, quarterback out of Arkansas. I struggled here because I don't know that everybody is super high on KJ Jefferson, so the 4th round seems a little bullish, but I did think he was worth mentioning that dual threat ability. Folks were high on him from the NFL draft side of things coming into this year, and he still maintained a lot of that hype throughout the season, despite the fact that I always saw him as a 2024 guy. So he'll be able to go back another year's development as a passer, another year to show off his athleticism. And I do think he can make an argument for being a tier 2 or 3 quarterback in next year's class. Richard Young, running back out of Alabama, high profile recruit. So Richard Young will come in as well in that Alabama room, and they'll look to compete for touches in a competitive Alabama backfield. So certainly has that 5-star pedigree in the 2026 class to warrant this selection here. But as always, proceed with a little bit of caution. Some tight end talk here at the end. 409, Theo Johnson, tight end out of Penn State. Theo Johnson, he doesn't have a ton of production, but what you see when he plays, it looks really great. Penn State has the ability to develop tight ends and feature them in different ways. So hoping to see a little bit more from Theo Johnson in terms of fantasy production, but he's looked like a good player. Malik Neighbors, 410, wide receiver out of LSU. Malik Neighbors, I think, has been really slept on here. True sophomore, 6'0", 195, 63 receptions, 854 yards, just 2 touchdowns, which is why I think folks aren't, as high on him, but a major leap forward from his freshman year where he caught 28 balls for 417 yards. In many ways, Malik Neighbors felt like really the focal point of the LSU offense this year. So I loved watching him live. He was somebody who popped out with the eye test. So it'll be interesting to see if he continues to be featured here with Jaden Daniels now coming back for another year. Jaheim Bell was at USC, South Carolina, now has transferred to Florida State. They used Jaheim Bell in any way they could. A running back, an H-back. He's really listed as a tight end. So that athletic versatility here is what we're looking for fantasy football purposes. And I finished off here with the wide receiver out of Arizona, Tatoria McMillan. Huge freshman season, great production. Loved watching him live. Love that size profile. A lot to like here about him. A lot to like about this 2024 rookie class. The 2025, 2026 classes are exciting as well. A lot of value here, but also a lot of volatility in Devy fantasy football, especially at this point in the year. You're going to want to make sure that you are tuned in to the Rookie Big Board. If you're watching on YouTube, sub, like, but please, folks, this is the time. This is the time of year. Head on over to patreon.com/rookiebigboard. Just $3 a month. Devy, Dynasty, Rookie, Discord, access, everything, all the rankings, all the good stuff. Patreon.com/rookiebigboard. As always, I appreciate you checking out this episode of the Rookie Big Board.